Dr. Smith, just checking in with you guys. Hopefully your writing is going well for your assignment that is due on Sunday. I just want to take a few minutes just to talk about your discussion post from this week. I want to thank you guys for being vulnerable and sharing your stories about the conveyor belt. I think this is really important, not only for this class, but as we continue to learn and grow about ourselves. I remember learning about the conveyor belt when I was in my master's program, and all of a sudden you just become more aware of what's going on around you, what people are saying, and that really scary feeling when somebody says something, and do you say something back, do you not? But as long as you're even having awareness of what's going on inside of you is progress towards cultural humility. I'll be the first one to say that I definitely do not have this perfected. Whether it is, I know I was at a little gathering one night, and the card game, Cards Against Humanity. Whew. If any of you have played that game, it's like, oh my gosh. So that has been a struggle. Sometimes I have to just sort of decide not to participate in things like that in a really good way without being that person, And so this is something that is a journey. And again, I just want to thank you guys for sharing where you feel you are on the conveyor belt, and to know that we're all at different places and we all have different situations in our lives where we fall. So again, thank you. Kind of moving on to next week when we talk like systematic racism and oppression. And this week we kind of focused on ourselves and the little world around us. But this next week we really talk about institutional racism and like systematic. I know the school district that my kids go to, I've been working with them for several years. My son used to go to our school on a reservation, but now we're in a public school off of the reservation. And there have been instances where they've been asked, I remember in third grade he had an assignment and a few questions were, who discovered America? And the answer was Columbus. And my son was confused because he knew that Columbus didn't discover America, that we were here as Native Americans prior to that. And then there was also a question of, whites are to this as Native Americans, and they had to pick one, and the correct answer was savages. And then a few weeks later he came home and had been called a dirty Indian. And so I remember just writing and talking about that, of how that systematically creates this narrative about Native Americans. And so think about in the United States as a whole. I mean, with Native Americans, it's 1% of the population. That's my little world I live in. But think about that for you. And I hope you guys enjoy reading about the systematic oppression and racism. This stuff is really hard to digest, and so oftentimes I wonder what's going on in your worlds, and I wish we had some live space to talk about this, but I think you're all doing a really good job with the technology that we have, which is through writing. And so again, thank you guys for showing up in this class and being present and being vulnerable. I really appreciate that, and I hope the class is going well. We're going to be wrapping up here in a few weeks, so keep on keeping on. You're doing a great job, and have a great weekend.